even though we do like rely on music a bit in our game to kind of convey the mood, it's like, it was like a challenge for us to kind of like inject that emotion into just like kind of literal sound effects, you know, like wind sounds and what are some other like scary sounds like that we had to make scary that would just like be otherwise, like machine sounds, for example. Like all machines, it was like important that they sounded like broken and old and kind of random. Like everything had to have this kind of filter of scariness and darkness and kind of degradation put over it. So nothing should ever sound like squeaky clean. Nothing should ever sound like it's in perfect working order. Nothing should ever sound like too happy. There had to be an element of some kind of twisted brokenness to it. A lot of the machine VO, for example, like we had to like pitch shift it so it was going like really fast and then like really slow, and then we'd like break it up into like lots of different little sections. So yeah. So it just kind of sounded broken and weird, and would kind of creep people out. Like not everything's normal.
We would sample the composer Gary Scheinman sort of frequently, and just take sort of sections of string sounds and set them maybe like a semitone apart to just like create tension in the players. Are walking around the world, they might just hear a sting that might just sort of invoke some sort of emotion out of them. So everything from literal sound effects to machines to getting creative with music just creates this really frightening atmosphere.
Actually, like a lot of our inspiration kind of came from System Shock 2, which is just like, System Shock 2 had that really cool thing of the ambience was just so ominous and pressing all the time. It was like relentless. It was like this like psychological button that you'd just be like, okay, I'm afraid now. And there's no music or anything, just be this like unrelenting drone, you know? And so we definitely tried to like replicate that again in Bioshock, and just kind of like you walk into a space and there's just like this really lonely hum there, and it's just like, ooh, you know, and it just freaks people out. It's great.
Yep. All the sounds in Rapture feel like they're from the period where the fiction takes place.
We had to like lay off the synth stuff.
Yep.
Like, you know, that was like one thing about Bioshock that like as a sound designer we did not have the luxury of, and that is kind of like in a lot of like sci-fi games you have these like really synth heavy kind of soundscapes and alien sounds and, you know, weird kind of doors opening, and they're all like, it's all very kind of like synthetic driven sounds, you know, but like our whole sound palette was based off real recordings of very like old antique machines a lot of the time. In fact, I think like the ambience in Science, like Science is our most kind of techie deck, I guess you would say. It was like all those computers around, and we actually like sampled an old MS-20, like an old analog 1970s synthesizer to kind of like get that really kind of like authentic old computer kind of sound. It worked out pretty well. Our soundtrack is incredible, and it was composed by a guy called Gary Scheinman, and he was just like really into kind of the music direction for Bioshock was this early 20th century like avant-garde kind of experimental orchestral stuff, which is a tough direction to nail. And I knew like Gary Scheinman was the guy for it, because anytime like he would like send me his own personal listening collection, the stuff he'd send me would just be this like, you know, completely weird avant-garde orchestral stuff. So I was like, he was the guy for the job. So our score for Bioshock is like, I don't know, I consider myself a fairly comprehensive gamer, and I've never like heard anything like it. So yeah, and also we had like a live orchestra, like a lot of the guys from the LA Philharmonic are kind of playing, you can hear them playing in the background. We have like a really amazing like virtuoso violinist who plays all our main parts, which is incredible. Because we really wanted to get, and actually like when we recorded the orchestral stuff, we really wanted to get like the sound of, you know, humans, like turning pages, you know, like moving their fingers on the violin strings. Like it was very important that this didn't sound like a modern Hollywood score at all. It was very important that it sounded more like a very old recording of, you know, of humans playing music. And that was definitely the direction for Bioshock. Like even mistakes got like left in, whereas otherwise, like, you know, in like scores, you know, in other scores for games that kind of like are big budget, you know, they have that very spiffy kind of feel to them. But yeah, we definitely wanted everything to just be completely human.
The process of voice recording was something that started out I think we underestimated the scope of the amount of voice recording we have to do for the game. Because I've done a lot of games before, and somehow Bioshock just got huge in this regard. And the amount of time writing, the amount of time recording, the amount of time casting and recasting was giant. It ended up being a huge project, and we had recorded in LA, we recorded in Boston, and we recorded in New York. And so it was kind of recorded all over the place, and I don't know, it was probably 40 or 50 different sessions. Like, it was just huge. It's not, all right, Marie, let's, do this and that, the sort of standard-y things you see in video games. It was really such a broad range of characters, and making sure that they were not too, either too sort of not projecting their personalities enough, or cartoonish, and finding that space between those two things was really challenging in a game like Bioshock, because it has to be believable. That's the whole thing about this world. It's like this fantastical world where people have to believe in it. And you have guys like Sandra Cohen who are, they're out there, but you have to believe this guy could actually exist. And you have guys like Steinman, you have to believe it exists, these crazy people. And then, Ryan and Atlas and Tenenbaum, the Little Sisters, those are all really tough characters to get, because they're really big personalities, and all you have is their voice. It's like radio. You don't have the actor's face. And if we had these actors' face, it would have been so much easier, because they're all very capable actors. You don't have makeup. And you have these guys at the end of the day in the game are sort of these these sort of animated puppets, and making those guys be space marines or aliens is usually easy. That's believable. But making them sort of emote and when you see Sandra Cohen, that you believe it's the guy who's been talking to you, that's tough, and to line all those things up.